we migrated to strategic clock. On strategic clock there, we discuss the competitive measures of companies by Bowman and his friend David for an entity to outshine other in competition to increase the volume of their sales and profitability. And the clock is measured against two factors, which are price and perceived benefits. Price and perceived benefits. Are able to see that combination of both two arrives at strategies that entity can use for competition and even check the power of competition of others. That is the competitor. Now, we say from the 8 identified typically on the clock, 5 of them were selected that they can use for competitive advantage. But the remaining 3 were grouped together as one, that is strategies that are bound to fail. So we made mention of low price, no frill, low price, hybrid differentiation, and focus differentiation. And those are the ones that are bound to fail. Today, we want to start with risk management because we try to get to some at least reasonable percentage from the strategy management aspect, the modules. I think we cover about 7 or 8 modules from there, about 10 self. Then we have risk management, we have corporate governance, and we have ethics aspects. So it's strategy we can actually finish the risk management between today and next class. At least supposed to be able to actually get up to risk analysis today, then that it's likely that you're going to finish the next class. Just a reporting, control, and ISO 31000. That's on risk management, ERP, and the rest of them like that. That is the focus anyway. So you don't want to see into risk management. What is risk? What is business risk? And what is risk management? You want to see who is primarily responsible for risk management. Who are others who are responsible for risk management? So what are the process that is required for risk management? Another area of confusion is form of risk, categories of risk, type of risk, and some other one like that. We are going to actually touch them. They are just matter of nomenclature. They are just name callings. Majority of them, they are referring to the same thing and the same set of instruction and management style. So that is about then. We are going to talk about sources of risk and impact of risk, particularly majority of the one that actually brought through Tumble report. Probably when we are discussing corporate governance, we are going to mention about those reports: Cadbury report, Higg report, Tumble report, and rest of them like that. With or with, the most important aspect of them is Tumble because of his involvement in internal control and risk management. So we are going to see to that. Then different example of risk. Where can organization be attacked by those we call it source of risk, and what are the impacts? Then subsequent to that is analysis of risks, which shows the behavioral characteristics of risk behind. So that is just the scope of today's discussions and that and that. Let somebody go first. What do we remember about risk? The risk itself. When you say risk, Mark Zuckerberg said the worst of the risk is not to take risk. The owner of Facebook, he said that the worst of risk is not to take risk. So what is risk itself? Any idea from the house?
Risk is the probability that something bad might happen or something good might also happen. It's just the probability.
Okay, that's it. Any other one? After that one, we are going. Any
Okay,
other one?
moving on.
Risk.
I see risk as uncertainties, probability of it happening, maybe like 0/100. It may
Okay.
not occur.
So 0/100, that would be, it's not going to happen now.
Okay, let's just say 50 50. 50 50.
Uh-huh. That is may or may not. Okay, anyway, that's right. So when we say risk is covered by uncertainty and threat of bad happening. So generally, risk can be seen as potential or probability or potentiality of losing something of value considered against gaining something of value. So in the event of the thing happening, it might be positive, it might be negative. The other event you can say risk is the chance of exposure to adverse consequence of uncertain future events. Of certain future events. Meaning that in definition of risk, the mention of uncertainty, at times chance, which is the chance of gaining something or lose something. So not to be confused about them. So at times they use them interchangeably for some definitions, but they have their different specific meaning. Now we've known about it. What uncertainty have its own meaning. Uncertainty means you are not sure. Whenever individual or corporate organizations is not sure about outcome of an event or decision, even investment, that is uncertainty, which can lead to gaining of value or losing of value. Uncertainty means that you are not sure. Even when you are sure, even when you are sure about the outcome, as far as the outcome is more than one, that is still uncertain. So uncertainty means that we have limited knowledge of what is going to happen. And just say that we are not sure, we're not sure. That when we are sure, there are more than one. In circumstances, me have not been pregnant before anyway, but I know that some people be pregnant. They say you go and do scan. You do scan, they say at the early stage, you're having twins. Then one boy or one girl, say we cannot know now. Let's go to the later stage. Okay, this later stage is one boy, one girl. Okay. It is now certain that you have twins. One boy, one girl. You still have some level of uncertainty. Which of the boy, which of the twins is going to be Taye or Kainde? Is it the boy or the girl? No scan can tell you that. No scan. And no Babalawo can tell you that one. So until they are giving back to the one that comes first become Taiwo, one that comes next become Kainde. So that is the level that uncertainty can take us to. So when we talk about chance refer to elements of event that cannot attach it to any proximate cause. This is happen. More often than not, it's always positive. But you cannot build your strategy on it because there's no logic behind it. There's no logic behind us. They call it chance. For instance, now you get the job by chance. Meaning that the way you got the job, you cannot recommend it, you cannot proclaim it for anybody. For anybody that follow this way, you're going to get the job. He just married that rich man by chance. So they are just going to somewhere. It does not when you go to that somewhere again, you are going to marry, you are going to jam another rich man there. But just somebody will slap you. So that is about chance, getting something. Meaning that in summary, chance is always associated with favorable outcome, while risk is always associated with unfavorable income. That is the fear behind what we call risk. That is the threat aspect of it. Now, we are more concerned basically about business risk. We are more concerned basically about business risk. That is the risk that a business might get inadequate profit or sustaining loss due to uncertainties. An entity might get a reduced profit other than what they targeted or sustaining loss due to uncertainties. The uncertainty might be what is within their control. We should not forget, we just left environmental analysis, that we have internal environment, we have external environment. Whatever is in within our internal environment, we can have some level of control over them. But external environment, those are we actually check with pestle or SWOT. we have little or no control about the environment. For instance, now you say that there is change in consumer taste, government policy, disasters. You have little or no control about that. Technology just came across, throw away the power of Nokia in Nigeria. From then up to now, they have been getting reduced, income, reduced profit. Or it might be internal. It might be weakness of the members of the staff. It might be operation inadequacies. It might be lack of skill in production and some other thing like that. So all those one can contribute to what it refers to as business risk, or what we call business risk. The fear behind it is that each entity have their basic objective and goal. When this risk are impacted negatively, the entity will not be able to achieve the level of a goal that was set by them. So meaning that entity will be work rigorously to make sure that the potentiality, probability is reduced, like just what somebody said, if not zero, very close to zero. And that's what we are going to see. Some of one of the acronyms we mentioned, ALARP, ALARP. I used to call it ALARP attitude. Meaning that whenever you are unable to eliminate risk, whenever you are unable to eliminate risk, try to reduce it as low as reasonably practicable. I would say as low as reasonably possible. Which type of investment in Nigeria, for instance, is closest to no risk? That the risk is very, very minimal, very close to zero. Which type of investment in Nigeria?
Treasury bill.
Treasury bills, treasury certificate, all those things that have to do with government. So they are very close to zero. So, and we used to say that their reward will not be as much as the one people do under MMM. How many of us came from MMM? Abi MMM? Yes, no. Everybody? Maybe not. So that is that aspect. Now we have identified what is risk and what is business risk. So our basic concern is how do we manage the risk? How do we manage risk? And the first, in our old knowledge of management, whether during your undergraduate or when you are doing your overgraduate, we have discussed management as a continuous process. No definition of management will eliminate the word process. We are talking about risk management. We are talking about continuous process to identify, analyze, evaluate, and treat loss exposure, and monitor risk control and financial resources to mitigate adverse effect of loss. There's no way entity will not venture into risky projects. Even to make decision to do anything is risky. Writing ICANN and not go to just to go and collect one paper called certificate like that is a risk on its own. Life, job, sleeping, going on is a risk. So business, we cannot avoid risk completely in all times. So business should actually look at a way to manage that particular risk. So there must be a way to suppress the adverse effect of loss at all point in time. I'm going to discuss those one, I think maybe the next class. How to mitigate the effect of loss or how to control loss. So whenever an entity or individual, a fund manager, an investor is trying to identify potential losses in an investment and try to identify appropriate action to cushion that effect, what they are doing is risk management. What they are doing is risk management. So if that one is like that, we will manage risk. Who is responsible to manage risk? Among the stakeholders of an entity, we just discussed stakeholder not too long. Among the stakeholders in an entity, who is responsible to manage risk? Any idea? Anybody? Different stakeholders. Who is responsible for risk management in an entity?
Risk managers.
Okay.
Is the directors.
Directors too. Any other one?
Manager. I
The
think the financial manager can manage
employees
the
who
risk.
have to mitigate risk. All the employees.
Okay. So all those who have mentioned, they are involved in risk management, but the primary responsibility of risk management is that of the management. They call them those charged with responsibility. Those are charged with responsibility. They are the agent of the entity, agent of the company, preferentially the agent of the shareholders too, to manage the entity profitably. They want to report on the operation of the entity at the end of the period. They want to report on the financial position at the end of the period. They want to protect the asset of the entity. They want to ensure efficiency and effectiveness in the running of the entity. As a result of that, they must guard anything that go to make that target fail from them, including internal control and risk management. Including internal control and risk management, mean that the primary responsibility of risk management is on the management. Luckily, they call it risk management. And what are the management do? They are managing. However, there are involvement about others, including board. If somebody mentioned about shareholder, including employees. Somebody mentioned risk manager too. Risk manager, maybe I'm going to mention it in the next class. Risk manager is the only or main professional in the field of risk management. How does it involve the board? How does it involve the board? The board has to superintend over the management. They are the one to make policy. Unfortunately, the risk in the area of strategy is from the board, because they are the decision maker for the organization, for the management to implement. So they too, they are responsible in one way or the other in the risk management, but their own responsibility is not to actually affect directly. They make sure that management perform their functions. We are going to mention again that something about risk appetite. Who discusses risk appetite? It is the board that determines what is the risk appetite. And the level of risk appetite too can actually cause some level of canker. Let's push that one to next class. So checking on some report, basically, which may be likely to touch under corporate governance too. The Cadbury report describes risk management as a process by which executive management, under the board supervision, identify the risk arising from businesses and establish the priority for control and particular objectives. So this even from Cadbury report says management is in charge. Executive management are in charge, but the board will supervise. United Kingdom Corporate Governance Code, which is the borrow language, borrow strategy for Nigerian corporate strategy codes too, which is established and announced in 2018 by Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. Notwithstanding, we have various other ones like Security and Exchange Commission, CBN. The one that actually harmonize everything as far as Nigerian best practice is concerned is from Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. So he said the board is determining for the board is responsible for determining the nature and extent of the significant risk it is willing to take in achieving the strategic objective. So meaning that their own tool is not by managing the risk under the umbrella of the entity. There's something we call ICGN, International Corporate Governance Network. These are like a group or association of blue chip companies among the friendly countries, including Nigeria. This one was actually established in 2010. They said the risk management process begins with the board. What does the board do? It determines the extent of the risk. They want to actually establish, to identify and approve system of risk management. The management is responsible for developing and implementing the company risk management system. They want to develop, the bodies to approve and manage them well. So the shareholder now, their own is to assess whether the board are doing well, because they're the one that appoint the board. They're the one that appoint the board. So somebody mentioned employee. Risk manager is an employee of the company. Risk manager is an employee of the company. So let's get into that level. So if I'm too fast, let me know that I'm too fast though. What are the processes involved in risk management? What are the processes involved in risk management? In general language, we used to say that a problem known is half solved. A problem known is half solved. That is why you see among there's particular race now, or like Olympic, Paralympic. I don't know whether any of us have seen Paralympic that they say 100 meter senior men that they are blind people. That job it's not for them. They can see somebody that's lame, somebody that doesn't have, they can actually do it. Paralympic does not involve the blind people. So if you don't know a particular problem, there's no way you can choose, you can solve it. So the first process after in risk management is to identify the risk. And how do you do that? You scan both internal environment and external environment of the entity to see where there are risks. Notwithstanding, you are looking for two things. Opportunity in the external environment too. These are the threats. So threats are located as part of the risk of the entity. And now we know that we have basic models we can use to identify or scan external environment. SWOT is one of them. PESTED is the best of them. So you identify the list of potential risk. 1. So that is that's number 1. Number 2 is to analyze the potential risk. Okay, you have identified them. So what are you going to do with it? Put them into race. Which one is the number 1? Which one is the worst of them? Which one can we manage? Which one can you discard immediately? No matter how beautiful it appears to be. That's about prioritizing the risk. For instance now, maybe because of the end of this, you have those that we say they are to be avoided. They are to be reduced. They are to be accepted. So those are the levels. So accepted will be the list of them that you can actually take. Like a small boy touching your nose, putting your hair like this, like that. Or like code for you that go to your office. You put your jacket now, put your jacket on, put off your AC. It's not the same thing with when you have somebody that sells pure water or cold drinks. You don't have the same effect. So meaning that as it appears to you does not appear to them. As appears to you does not appear to them. Meaning that what you prioritize as the least one might be their first or second. So each entity to prioritize the risk. That's a risk analysis. We are coming to that one towards the end of today's class. Now, when you actually identify the risk that you know, okay, this risk is available, we've identified it, we've analyzed it. As risk manager now, I mentioned that risk manager is the expert in them, which is an employee. So you will report to the management. See the risk that we have. This is how dangerous each of them are. You can manage this, you can manage this. After that circumstances, it's going to actually return back to them. Just a few lines now. We mentioned that they are going to design risk management system. So which one are we going to accept? Which one are we going to take? Which one are we going to avoid? Which are we going to just take and manage so that it won't affect us too much? So that is avoidance. The one you avoid, like you don't want to take that one at all. Now the one to accept, if it backfires, what are you going to do? That's what it refers to as contingency plans. You have accepted it. If it backfires, exactly what are you going to do? Okay, we have something to hedge it. We have insurance. We have diversified. So all those ones, they are contingency plan, including disaster recovery. There are very many of them like that. Now, when you have identified one and you've designed it, you can recommend it for, I'm assuming you are the risk manager now. Recommend it for the management. so that you can implement it. If management accept them, you are still the one as risk manager to implement it. Then implementation does not end any program. It does not end any app. It does not end any process. You need to see whether the thing work or did not work. Whether the risk management work or it did not work. So that is about evaluation. The last aspect, evaluation. That is to monitor, reassess. So if it is working, continue to monitor and upgrade. If otherwise, you start from analysis again. Mean that the choice are not right. That's why the thing backfires. The other time I made mention of alert attitude to risk management. When you are managing risk, first area is to eliminate. That is avoidance. And entity cannot eliminate all aspects of the risk unless you don't want to establish. So the one that you want to accept now, make sure that they are managed to a credit level that is as low as reasonably practicable. Or you say as low as reasonably possible. That is the acronym of ALAP, as low as reasonably practicable. It used to come like 5 mark, 2 mark, 3 mark, 5 mark, 2 mark, 3 marks. You cannot discuss, even 1 mark in ICANN. You cannot discuss it, I don't need 1 mark. So ALAP can come like that. So it's one of the principles we imported from UK because it's from health and safety legislations. From health and safety legislation. So anything cannot just go. Make sure you take precautions. You want to know, okay, maybe at the end, the next class, you want to check if I invest this one to cure or to secure a particular risk or to hedge your risk and compare it, if you didn't even protect it at all, how much are you going to lose? That only refers to as cost-benefit analysis. There's likelihood of fire disaster in an entity. To guard against fire disaster, you're going to spend about 17 million naira. With that, you are close to very sure that you won't have fire disaster. Then let's assume that if the fire disaster actually comes, what are you going to lose? Your warehouse have content and the container, about 7 million naira. So you don't need to actually put yourself in the grave. So that is about cost benefit. And the other area is what we call forms or category of risk. Forms or categories of risk. Here, we should not confuse ourselves. Many of us, we have read some literature. Those one they were called type of risk now. Why is it form now? Where's category now? They are just matter of nomenclature. I will still mention some that not even in this list now. That they look like the same thing. They have the same content and the same treatment. But a literature can call it form of risk. Other one we call it categories of risk. Other one we call it type of risk. Another one will say example of risk. So it does not matter. The moment you mention a name, just take the content and you know what is all for. So the first one we are going to discuss is forms of risk. Forms of risk. And you're going to see that they are not differ from each other. In form of risk, we have strategic risk and operational risk. Strategic risk and operational risk. When you say strategic risk, there is risk that is alignment with strategy, making of decision. And who does that? The management. It can be the decision about growth. If you are talking about grow organically, grow by acquisition, grow by merger, grow by networking. Who makes the decision? The board. So that particular decision can lead the entity to success, and it can lead it to failure. The junction, the union can lead into success or can lead to union to failure, because it is not out of place to acquire poison, and that might actually just like typical people that married. Somebody will marry, how are they been like for married for long? For long. Somebody will say, Kai, who even has me to marry now? I had somebody give me a report like that of their office, or guy, your guy, senior brother, younger brother. He said, this man, before he married, his younger brother's son have married after the law school. Not that he don't go school. The younger brother's son, not even girl, finished university, went to law school, got married. God they say, Uncle too got married. The son the uncle was say, Kai, who pushed me into this trouble? Who pushed me into this trouble? So the same thing with entity. Decision of growth can actually be positive or negative. So a decision can be like, okay, let us actually pursue our strategy of growth organically, meaning that you are going to be growing, reinvesting your retained earnings and coming to be grow strategically, small like that. Or no, that one will take too long time. Notwithstanding, the risk is smaller. Another can say, okay, let's acquire now. When you acquire, there's money. Acquire from many people now, then you come into the big fold. It can be good too, and continue big like that. But at times, if you acquire poison, it can be dangerous. I don't want to be mentioning big companies in Nigeria that actually done that, and the end is not too good for them. Like that, like, don't let me mention a company now. So that is strategic risk. Now let's check operational risk. Then we are going to compare with categories. Operational risk are those risks of loss or damage resulting from inadequate process or failed process through human being or system. Through human being or system, or at times from external events. What are we saying now? Internal process, internal control might not be able to identify, we know that one, identify risk or detect fraud and error. You have a guard to secure your assets. The guard might sleep, he might leave the place on that thing, they can buy him over. That is all those on their internal people. You might have system, you are even protected. E-environment, electronic system. The hacker will just come one day like this. Was it last year or year before the last? Like say DST was hacked. Anybody, either you software or no software, can watch any level of their this entertainment is it bond or bunk they call it. And we heard about the banks too, that in 2 days they lost about 2 billion naira. So it can be any of this one. So that is operational risk. Operational risk. Anyway, you see that they can be prevented by appropriate internal control system. Let's get that one now. Then see what they call category of risk. Pure risk and speculative risk. Pure risk is replica of operational risk. Pure risk is replica of operational risk. Just by definition, saying, okay, the possibility that adverse event will occur or worse, like injury at work. What's injury at work? That is domestic or internal risk. Or they said there is strike action, industrial action. That is internal consequences. That is failure within the internal, meaning that the employees group are not managed well. They say it's other ones known as internal control or operational risk. See the same thing. That one too can be controlled by some internal control system. The other one, operational risk too, can be controlled by internal control system. So operational risk is the replica of pure risk. Pure risk means that if it happens, it's going to be negative. If it happens, it's going to be negative. It's different from strategic risk. It can be good or bad. It can be a success or failure. For pure risk, operational risk, the results are always negative. Let's get it from there. Then the other side, another category is speculative risk. They say describe a situation where the outcome is either better or worse than expected. For instance, investment in share. So they are unavoided risk. And they said it is otherwise known as business risk, strategic risk, or enterprise risk. Even in the example, they make the mention of those we discussed up there. So speculative risk is the replica of strategic risk, while pure risk is replica of operational risk. Let's attribute some other ones now. You've heard about insurable risk and uninsurable risk before. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Insurable risk means that the risk that entity can take cover of insurance on. You can take a policy to cover it up. You only take cover or insurance for operational risk and pure risk, meaning that operational risk and pure risk, they are insurable risk. Let me come again. When you say insurable risk, this one are not in the note anyway. Insurable risk are those risks that entity can hedge by taking insurance cover or internal policy. And no insurance company will take risk that is related to strategy or speculation. They only take that one that actually say they are pure risk, that if it happens, so it's going to be negative. That's what we call downside of the risk, one-way risk. Downside of the risk or one way. So operational risk and pure risk, they are insurable risk. In the reverse, strategic risk and speculative risk are uninsurable risk. They are uninsurable risk. That's another one. In other circumstances, in other issue, we see something they call fundamental risk and particular risk. So we have fundamental risk at risk that are actually caused by external environment, which the entity have little or no control on. We call it fundamental risk. But particular risk is actually caused by within the entity, just like operation and pure risk. You have a control of them. Control like what? Now you don't want it to happen, you can put something in edge. At least if you don't eliminate it, it will reduce to as low as practically possible. Let me give you an instance now. All of us know what they call bad debt, which eventually resulting from selling on credit. Which entity was saying we cannot avoid doing that now. So if you want to eliminate that particular, you want to eliminate the risk completely, just say no credit sale. Shikena. In some local banks, we see them write no credit today, come tomorrow. Abi, one of my neighbor intentionally, you don't want that even come tomorrow to come because you don't come and ask you tomorrow. He said no credit, please don't ask. He packed very boldly, typed and placed it in the shop like this. He said no credit, please don't ask. So that is internal risk that you can actually control, like operational risk, because selling is part of the operation now, or pure risk. In some office, in some construction company, say, do not enter this place unless you are a construction engineer. Don't come in this particular arena without putting your what do you call this one? You used to put on the hedge kit, your safety kit, like that, so that one you can actually control. In some situations, you see related risk and correlated risk. Related risk and correlated risk. Related risk are those that are caused by the same event, the same source, the same thing happened, then there are many outcomes of that particular that for different people. That is related risk. When you say correlated risk, this actually varies together. When this one change, the other one will change, either in the same way or in the opposite way. As far as one change, the other one will change. The demand and supply for different products. You see rise in the call for Coca-Cola, drop in the call for Pepsi-Cola. Just what actually happened in the area of their competition. So those are the area we can see for categories of risk or forms of risk or types of risk. Category of risk, form of risk, or types of risk. Now, if you to Jumbo's report, we want to discuss what are those risks possibly facing entity as financial manager. Where do they come from as their source? And what is the potential impact? Because that's what we are going to do on the analysis of risk, the possibility and the impact. There's no way that they slap somebody, no matter who slap you, there must be the effect of the slap. So In the business, we want to see the sources of risk, the type of risk, and the impact of it. At times with the examples like that. So, but first, let's actually take the list of the risk type we want to discuss. Probably after the next 10 minutes thereabout. So we have market risk, we have credit risk, we have liquidity risk, we have technological risk, we have legal risk, we call it legal risk, health and safety risk or environmental risk, reputational risk, business probity, and derivatives. I know you are not too far from derivatives. Anybody in this professional class have gone through many challenges in FR. So you will have discovered about derivatives from your International Financial Reporting Standard and IAS. They have cyber risk. Cyber risk was not too germane at that particular period. So now we are adding cyber risk to this. So we are going to continue the full discussions when we come back in the next 10 minutes thereabout. So thank you for your attention. I presume that we are going to cover this environment today. Thank you. See you very soon.
Thank you so much, sir. So we'll be going on break for 15 minutes, then we'll come back shortly. Thank you.
Listening. That's the end of that. Okay. Let's see as far as we can go with these numbers. I'll conclude by making the list of risk that can face an entity and impact on their financials or other impacts. Now, what we mentioned first was market risk. What do we refer to as market risk? The risk in the market or risk about the market? The failure or the potentiality of losing. Now, this one is related to what happens in the market. The performance of financial market, even at times commodity markets. Mean that this is a segment of financial industry or segment of an economy. Whatever happens there is limited to particular environment. So where can that one comes from? Fluctuation in the prices of assets as far as it can affect the entity's performance. We see how the changes in the price of fuel in Nigeria affect the fortune of many markets, including commodity markets, including household. So function of the markets, of the prices, can actually influence what they have in the market. Stock exchange market, where we have bond, stocks, shares, and rest of them like that. So what will be the impact of the entity? You lose money. You won't be able to get source of raw material to pay your suppliers, to pay your employee, to there will be lack of capability to make production of goods and services. Then what affect, we say the market generally, so you're going to have effect on the market. The market will decline generally. Just like what happens in 2008 for stocks in Nigeria. We take effect from what actually happened in the UK. The overall effect on everybody in the market. And the certain effect is that company will close. They will not do business again. I see half of the people that have left stockbroking industry and never go back there. That is more than 10 years, go to 20 years. They will not go back there. Some of them entry real estate, some of them I even know some of our former students and colleagues like that they are now into accounting and auditing full time. Some of them are from Nigeria, other places to escape from the resultant effect of that particular risk. So that is the issue concerning market risk. Then there is credit risk. Credit risk is the risk that attack an entity and reduce their ability to raise finances. Credit risk is risk that if attack an entity, it will reduce the entity's ability to raise finance. It actually comes in both forms, for the lender and for the borrower, especially if that entity is a finance entity like a bank or mortgage houses and the rest of them like that. The risk of their own is that their borrower are not paying. For the borrower is inability to be able to borrow again. Then what can cause that? Bad management. Inability to service debt. Like Nigeria, there's no when and where Nigeria want to borrow money, they will borrow money, they will give us money. I mean Nigeria, not Nigerians, so Nigeria as a country. Why? We service our debt. Even cost us in a year, almost half of our budget. We used to service debt. That is why AMF at night today, a bit tonight, if Nigerian president, any of the stakeholders say we need loan, they are ready to give us. Because we have the ability to service our debt. And that's what they are looking for. or other circumstances where the general economic downturn. If there's no money anywhere, where are you going to see money to pay your creditors? No way. As a result of that, the credit rating of that entity will fall. And what it refers to as credit rating. That is how much can you rely, how much credit worthy an entity is, whether private entity or public entity, how much credit worthy is that particular entity is. So that's what they call rating. Nigeria has never fallen below standard. They're always above standard. So that is one. Then when you are able to actually raise finances, the development will be very slow, because there's no way to want. So that is that. Then another thing you can actually check on here is liquidity risk. Hello.
We can hear
Sir,
you, sir.
we can hear you now. I think
Okay.
you are off for some seconds, but we can hear you now.
Okay.
Sir?
The audio was lost before. The audio was
Yes,
lost
yes.
before.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
What was that I was talking about?
I think you are talking about the credit risk. What is it called? Credit risk.
Okay,
Under
credit
credit
risk.
rating. Yeah,
Okay.
yes, credit rating.
So I was thinking that there's no time Nigerian fall below standard. We are always above standard. Because you're able to actually service your debt, the lender is ready to give you back. And the same resultant effect for the lender too. So now I say credit risk affect both the lender and the borrower. It depends on what side of the coin you belong to. So if you're able to actually raise credit, the growth of that particular entity will be stunted. Because a typical businessman will operate with think capitalizations. It's the cheapest to operate with debt other than equity. But equity is less risky. I was mentioning an example of the Dangote, the richest man in Africa, and that one on number 40 something, 50 something in the world now. He said, as rich as he is as much as indebted like that. The refinery cost a loan from World Bank $20 billion. How many trillions of naira is that? But they don't care. They will pay. The business will generate the money. As far as they're selling, they will be able to. You see, it's not the first time you borrow. Now they can close eyes and borrow somebody 20 billion. So that is that now. So for entities to be like that, I will mention again that America is de facto best economy, number one economy in the world. They are still the most indebted nation of the world. So ability to raise credit is an advantage for growth and development of any entity. So, but inability to grow, to borrow, that's what they call credit risk. You won't be able to actually raise finance other than what they have in within them. So that is that. Then the next one is liquidity risk. All of us are that liquidity now. Inability to meet debt with their current asset whenever it arises. It might be cash, it might be other element of current assets. We are talking about sufficient, insufficiency now. That way it become only cash. Now, what can cause liquidity risk? Majority of the entity, their cycle involved inventory, receivables, and cash. Meaning that inventory will go, they will pay later. But when customers are not paying, where is the source of the cash? Where is the source of liquidity? Where is the source of the money? Again, when there is poor credit rating as an effect from credit risk now, you'll be able to raise money from external environment. Then worst case scenario, sometimes there will always be poor cash management. It has happened to Nigeria before. Prior to Festac, One president, I will not mention the name of president of Nigeria, and then he said, our problem is not money, it's how to spend it. The president mentioned that for Nigeria. When Nigeria borrow and dash other countries of the world, including people that can call they are rich, one of the richest countries of the world of today, Nigeria is to actually give them money to do things. So, but the management becomes so erratic, and we can see where we find ourselves today. So, when cash are not managed well, there are always liquidity risk. It's one of the reasons where entity face liquidity risk. Now, what are the impacts? Some of the impacts include the entity will not be able to obtain materials needed for production, meaning that it will affect the production. Even to pay the entity employees may be difficult too. Then the entity may actually lead to death if there is no need more money to produce, no money to pay the employee, no money to pay statutory debt. It's time to pay pension, not available. To pay payee, not available. Income tax, not available. Law comes, people come here, and at the end of the day, the entity will collapse. One of the worst risks is technological risk. We've discussed this one too under Pestel, where entity operates in an environment or a market where technology change their operation often and often. It's too dangerous for them, except they are following within the same step by step to invest and invest and invest. The closer we made the example was telecommunication industry in under our Pestel. It's becoming changed. When phone come to Nigeria, it was button everywhere. And the only challenge we have is charging of battery. And we know which one have the highest strength in battery charging. It becomes the lead. Technology change. It becomes smartphone. Everybody want to be operating with those. That one give back to other ones. So you can communicate to somebody with not as SMS now, which is costlier. With what? BlackBerry. It's far as give you pin, you are connected. And holding BlackBerry that time, you are a big boy or a big girl. That investment does not spend up to 1 year. Other one, another technology. That is WhatsApp. WhatsApp spoil business for BlackBerry. So unless you go to evolve, like now, this model that started with Zoom, Google Meet now, WhatsApp are this equivalent of this. So whenever you entity you run in the industry that technology actually change often and often, the entity should be ready to follow often and often. So the cost, some of the causes is that lack of investment in research and development. Research leads to growth. If entity does not invest in that, it finds itself to blame. Samsung took advantage of technology over Nokia, and that was the end. Also now, Samsung is still leading in smartphone and Android, whether we like it or yes, because you have already taken advantage. Now, what will happen as an impact? If only a human being, anybody that is not up to date, it will be out of date. Anybody that is not up to date, it will be out of date. That's outdated. So the product of people that are not investing in new products can be outdated. If the product is outdated, who will patronize it? How many cars on the road today are manual transmission? How many of them? As somebody was mentioning yesterday, I was listening to somebody yesterday that the bed that the former one before the was using, if they give it to somebody's house girl or house boy, you don't want to sleep on it. But that was the best thing at that particular period. So that is and that. And then legal and legal risk. Legal risk deal with compliance. Either complying with regulation, comply with policy, or comply with law. So now, this one will be particularly on law and regulation. This one particularly about law and regulations. So where do entities face legal risk? When there is breach of law or breach of regulation. Even in accounting industry, where we have confidentiality as one of the basic principles, the law permits releasing of confidential informations where the entity, your client entity or your employer is not compliant with law and regulation. That's what we call NOCLAR, NOCLAR. So again, there will be legal risk if somebody commits a breach and is being sued. There is litigation against the entity. So you can resort into that. Those some of the impact we're going to mention now. It can be adverse publicity. Don't mind them. Everything they don't do well. See them preach this law. They preach this law. You even see any entity that you see FRS or IRS, you go and say blocks. The block, you say law, they call it now. Don't these people. So they're not even responsible. Tenement rate, cost summon every time. What are you doing? So they can all the money what are they using it for? Then at times the court might fine them, they might pay penalty, they might pay damages, and so on and so forth. Then the next one is health and safety risk or an environmental risk. This one involves the harm we cause to the environment. The harm we cause to the environment because of something you call environmental hazard. And the compound can lead to what they call natural disaster. Okay, in the old, I think we have some recent ones too now. In the old, there's something they call Omiyale, people that are used to Ibadan. I think in the early 80s or late 70s. They said because people dump their waste on the track of the water, because they think it's more water, and because something that actually destroys majority of houses. Now, what can cause this one as the source of the risk? Climate change. I think it was in Ogun State. You see, there was snow. I think this month or last month. Snow. It never happened in Nigeria before. That one is starting from climate change. That is, some people cannot even go to market. You see them actually raking ice on the road. Another thing can actually be natural disaster or violating of environmental regulations or dumping of toxic waste. We know toxic waste now. We didn't know we can ask and discuss this umbrella. So, what are the resultant events? Payment of fine, litigation, cost of restoration, civil unrest, payment of damages, or adverse publicity. Civil unrest now is, when toxic waste was dumped on the site of the one we normally call oil spillage in the South Coast. They started by come and clean our land for us. Come and do borrow for us. Come and do this one for us. In the year, some of their big boys was invited to Abuja. That's where the problem started. So there is a city good like this. You carry our money from that place, develop this place. Civil unrest started. It's riot. From riot to kidnapping to what we have up to now. And so on and so forth. Reputational risk. Reputational risk is a function of bad product or output from an entity. Reputation is the golden brand or image of an entity, even a human being self. So, and they are got to that particular level because of the suitability of their product, either goods or services. When those products are becoming bad, are becoming non-functional, are becoming detestable, the reputation will fall. Suppose the best brand will becoming one of the worst brand. Suppose one of the best brand will become one of the best or one of the worst brand. So that is about reputation. So it can be because the performance of the production people or the performance of the sales people or the performance of the quality control. One mean that you have a lower quality or a worse quality of product in market. Like for some years back, Toyota recall some of their, I think it was 2004 brand of Toyota Camry. The one people used to call Big for Nothing. Nothing less than 77,000 of them was recovered. I don't mean the Tokumbo, the one they bought from the factory. Why? There is ABC failure. And what do people drive in car if the brake cannot function? If they allow that one to fall in the market, that will be the end for Toyota Camry, at least, if not generally for Toyota. Because the brake system cannot work very. They have to recall them from market. Don't spoil things for us. Then they change and they come from like that. I don't want to mention particular organization in Nigeria too. If they can recall the existing officials, I don't want to say officer, so that I won't say I see somebody. Recall those who are back and rebrand and come back again. How about the best in other country of the world? The best in other country of the world. So that is about reputation. Or when their operator behave abnormally, or employees behave abnormally, or their promoter behaves abnormally, the reputation of that entity will fall. Our competitor in this industry, if you check the syllabus, at least I've gone through the browser, I took them some of the diet before. I don't see 20% difference from between ICANN and their. I don't see. So why the reputation is going up per second self? Because of the people in charge, the examination system, the product that they produce outside. Is it, I mean, I don't know anything about what you are saying. I've actually visited that before. I think it was HOD of no, it's HOD they call them now. Commissioner, I think commissioner in one state like that. Is holding, I don't want to mention the name, fellow. Those say, people are I don't understand though. Yeah? It's okay. So because of those products, people are downgrading the institute on its own and the certificate that they are holding. So meaning that bad output can cause fall in reputation. Okay, what are the impacts? We've seen some of the impacts. We just discussed them now anyway. Product recalls, adverse publicity, it can be adverse publicity against the entity, loss of market share. In the extreme, entity will close down. We see many like that now. Then loss of trust and damage to brand and brandies. If there's any English like that. The elder brother of that one is business probity. Business probity is typically about those charged with governance. Those charged with governance, their own attitude can cause harm to the entity. What do I call it attitude? Ethical or moral stance of those particular people. For instance, such can be if they behave unethically, like entity trading in sector with adverse reputation. With adverse reputation. For it not to be like child labor, for instance, in the world today, company that their directors allow child labor will have business probity risk problem, meaning that they're going to have almost the same effect with the probity. People will detest them. Or somebody trading aligned with enemy country or enemy nation. In the law, they call it treason. Is it treason? They call it treason. Treason. So meaning that the impact will include adverse publicity, bad image. Then people can actually boycott their product. We've been seeing this one nowadays now. There's some products, they are sponsoring genocide in some country. People should not buy their product. We've been hearing this one for long. And that's why will adversely impact on the finances of that particular entity. Because the products are there able to buy, to have their inflow, revenue, and have their gain or profit. So whenever this one people are boycotting the product, it's a result of the behavior or action of people charged with governance, what we call maybe the promoters, board of directors, so on like that. Next to the last one is derivatives. Why do we call this item derivatives? Any idea? Why do you call derivatives? Derivative? Why do we call them derivative? Why do we call it derivative? Oh, okay. You call
Is
it
it because
derivative.
they are,
Okay. I'm
is it
listening.
because they are mind is mining instruments, an instrument that are mined? I think like coins, something like that, gold.
Okay. Gold. Gold is not derivative. Oh. Just
No,
commodity
sorry.
item.
Copper. Sorry, copper.
Copper. Is copper derivative?
Yes, the derivative instrument. All those like financial instruments. I can't
Uh-huh. Financial instruments is what they are derived their own stance from. That's why they call it derivatives. The instruments that are based in their pension, they are standing on other existing financial instruments. So they derive, the word derive means that they are based on existing financial instruments. That they call it derivative. They were derived their autonomy, their existence based on the existing financial instrument. That refers to as derivative. So existing financial instrument, they are what they call primary instrument or primary financial instrument. In other language, they call them underlying financial assets. Now we are talking about bond, stock, gold, dollar, naira, and the rest of them like that. So those are the real financial instruments. Those are the primary underlying financial assets. On those one, derivation are patient on because they derive their meaning from the existing financial instruments. That's why you see something like future, swap, option. Those are derivatives. Do you get it now? That's what they
Yes, sir.
call derivatives. Yes, sir. Thank you. So that's the derivatives. Now, derivatives is a risk that can make entity to lose finances. That's why I say that derivatives are risk due to the use of financial instruments. Financial instruments is what they base it on. So what are the sources? What are the causes of those particular loss now? Because there is certainty of loss on forward exchange contract. One of them will lose. And what happens that now I say we say they are derivatives. Nobody exchange those assets. It's not that you buy dollar, you collect dollar, you pay naira. Or you buy gold, you pay money, you collect gold. Nobody collect anything in derivatives. They only get the net. For instance, now, price for gold, let's say assume today, price for gold is like 10,000 per carat. Now we speculate that okay, by next 3 months, it's going to be 15,000. So me and you will say you are going to buy for 15, you are going to sell to me 15,000, I'm going to pay you 15,000. If the thing fall to 8,000, you are going to pay me 2,000. If you let to 50,000, you are going to pay you 5,000. So the amount you are even paying is not even there. Nobody is collecting any material from anybody. So that's what it refers to as derivatives. And that is one of the major causes uncertainty about the future condition. Nobody is certain about what is going to happen in the next, even in the next hours or next minutes, whether going to be good or bad. For instance, by February this year, I went on chat to one of my clients. He said, come on, this water is too much. One of my friends advised me that, Ajay, why are you worrying yourself, sir? Just sell all of this thing, go and buy dollar and rest. I just told her, don't try it. That's when $1 was about 1,750 or 1,008. Once by next month, you will enter 2,000 per dollar. Don't try it. Later it will okay. Thank God. Because it was moving from when now? 750, 900, 1,000. It was going like that. When it reached that, up till now, never crossed 1,009. Talk less of going to 2,000. So if you actually say you are going to pay 1,000, by expect they're going to be 2,000 naira, so that you can get 100 extra. Now you're going to pay back about 300 naira per one. So the future is uncertain. Those are part of the major thing that cause risk on derivatives. Then volatility of the market potentials. Fluctuations. Even at what we can say naira level is at times say naira gain unprecedented in the recent future, in the recent time. Like 2, 3, 4 weeks against dollar. No matter we say dollar is strong, is becoming stronger. Anything can happen tomorrow. I mean, if I may tell you now, there are some conspiracy now against dollar in the world of today. There's some conspiracy in the dollar. One of them is what Nigeria has not implemented or they have not acted on very well. Naira yuan swap. So the one has discovered that there's policies behind using dollar. Okay, majority of our importation is from China. We are using dollar. China uses we have and we are importing directly, not we are taking it through that other countries. So meaning that you cannot be very sure. Environment is very volatile. So what are the part of the consequences? Financial loss to the entity, adverse publicity, like the one people actually done under MMM. You too, the whole of you are done like that. Then if the loss is too much, the entity can close up, and some of that. The last one, cyber risk. Cyber risk. The more the world moves into digital from analog, the worst risk. There's a thing. Now I mentioned that 1982 when Tom Bull taking a report, the risk in cyber was not as much as this. So when you're talking about cyber risk, it refers to potential harm or loss resulting from cyber threats. Entity that the more you go to digital, the more vulnerability you are. Before the use of computer in the banking industry, or because you used it of internet in the banking industry, we hardly heard about 100 million loss in any bank. Even when you're going to be lost, you'll be conniver with the staff or the officers with somebody else. Now, entity is losing in 2 days about 2 billion naira last year thereabout because of the effect of hackers. And that is just one of them, just one. So by the time you put your assets in the cyber, you lose majority of the control unless you are ready to be spending and investing in technology. Now, what are some of the causes of that? Data breaches, ransomware attacks, malware attack, virus attack, insider hacking, operational disruptions. Then there will be financial loss. If there's financial loss, there will be no money to invest in technology, and so on and so forth. So meaning that any entity that's actually going into cyber should be prepared for the possibility of those risks. Because if you beat the procedure of the data in their him, to even locate the data identity will be lost. Data integrity will be lost. So if ransomware attacks your cyber, your access might be denied, just like virus. If that's why it's too far, we know about virus when it attacks our computer accessories, your flash, your disk, the area of the pile, and rest of them like that. Whenever they actually go on that one, it costs a lot of problem. And what are the impacts? As usual, as we can find it: financial loss, loss of control, operator shutdown, and cost of necessary recovery. Before you recover any cyber issue, there's going to be a lot of expenses or expenditure, as the case might be. Those are just parts or some of the major type or example of risk we find there. In some circumstances, we see that we want to have something like financial risk, operational risk, each of them. Then not just the nomenclature. At least we have operational risk ops there, we have financial risk too, and some of those one like that. Before now, we mentioned about process of risk management. And the second one we mentioned was analysis of risk. What do we call analysis of risk or risk analysis? Analysis of risk or risk analysis. We said the fourth process is to identify. The second one is to analyze. Analysis means that prioritizing potential risk. How do you prioritize? That's what we want to discuss under risk analysis. How do you prioritize? So when you say risk analysis, we mentioned about the study and evaluation of behavioral characteristics of risk and its effect on business objectives. That is the technique used to identify and assess factors that may impact the success of a project or entity achieving a goal. We've identified what to analyze now. Okay, this one, how often can it happen? This particular risk we have identified now, how often can it happen? Once in a year, once every month, one time in 10 years, and so on and so forth. That what refers to as probability. That's one of the basic factors of analysis. How often can it happen? That's a probability, or we call it likelihood. Probability or likelihood. How often can it happen? That's one major factor. Then the other factor is the consequence. When it happens, how badly can it affect the entity? If it happens, how badly can it affect the company? So we call it consequence, we call it impact, we call it hazard. So those two factors are responsible to analyze risk. Probability or likelihood, consequence or impact, which regularly, from the analysis we've done in the past with our matrix, 2x2 matrix, we still use high and low, meaning that probability of it happening can be high, it can be low. The consequence, the impact of it can be high and it can be low. So I think we are familiar with high and low in our analysis. So we can still use the same arithmetic in case they give us a matrix that doesn't have this one we have in our material. The low of both one, the likelihood and the impact, are by the left top, which is not the regular thing for integral. Integral, the low or zero should be down. This one will not take figures, so you can put it anywhere at any point in time. So in case they actually misplace or change them, you should know which ones will be Tara or you use Rata. So the consequence, the effect, so answer to those analyses will result into 4 quadrants, 4 groups of risk in the 4 quadrants. Depending on how you place them, how you start from, it can, so that we won't forget, it can be Tara or Rata. It can be Tara or Rata. So you should start from the right top and come clockwise. You have Tara. If you start from the left bottom and go either clockwise or anti-clockwise, you have Rata. With or without that, we can still use our arithmetic to be able to forestall this one, so that we will not be finding ourselves to say, which one is Rata, which one is Tara. When you have a risk type or form that have low likelihood or probability, low probability and impact, low probability and low impact, you say that particular of risk, accept it. So you have accept. The other name for accept is what they call retain, retention of risk. Let me repeat. Probability type that have a risk type that have low probability and low impact, you say accept. That is the A, accept. And I mentioned that the other name for accept is retain. So another dictionary can call it retain for you. Or in a scenario, they will say he retain the profit, that he accept that part of profit. So condition number 2, that is condition number 2, is when a particular risk type have low probability but high impact. Low probability plus high impact, we say transfer. Transfer. This is the only place that risk management have anything to do with insurance. Because the other name for transfer is insure. Meaning that you are transferring the loss, if happens, to another entity entirely to hedge yourself against the bad consequences, so that it won't hold you down. Somebody is there to pay for it. Somebody is there to grow for you. So that is the second one. Low probability but high impact, meaning that it could not, because the impact is high, you will stop your business. The first one is that if the risk happen, it might not even happen, like in 110 years. Just like somebody running a fish pond. How often is he going to be afraid of fire disaster? Just like somebody that run filling station. It's not the same thing. So it happily happened in fish pond. Fire. Fire from where now? To burn fish. So probability is always, even when they happen, self, the impact will be very, very low. So that one, don't mind yourself about them. Continue your assignment. Then the other one is the probability of it happening is very low, but when it happens, the impact is very high. When it lost a key customer, there always be good customization for your key customer. But in the day that one of your competitor is able to hijack it, well, I'm there. I was this your late last year. One of my partner, one of them they want to the guy, their transport is actually having them too much, so he want to give it to us. I said, okay, no problem. He said when they are going back the other day, the second time for meeting now, those other one, they've not even prepared, they don't even finish the audit, so talk less of having or the financial to submit. You go and generate tax clearance certificate. I got told, don't worry, you have 5,000 for this year. What I'm saying is that everybody want to protect his customers, good customer. That is why I say the likelihood is very low, but when it happens, it's always very dangerous. For instance, we can listen often that bicycle have crashed, or even keke. And somebody can say, I just have a bruises on my leg, like that. I said, no, I just came out, nothing happened for me. Have we heard whenever they have air crash, nobody, I just have a small bruise on my shoulder? Has it happened before? Because it's not always everyday thing. Does it mean that people will not operate again? They will still operate. The same thing with disaster of the e-system now, failure of computer system, like the same we have in the note like that. So that's the second circumstance because of our time. The third circumstances where the likelihood is high, but the impact is low. They say reduce, in that create some hedging. The other name for this is minimize. The other name for this is minimize. Minimize. Like I was saying the other time, that when you carry a baby, the likelihood of his touching you, slapping you is very, very high. You don't know about the impact. It's not going to be like somebody that's conductor does slap you. A 6-month-old baby slap you. How does it affect you? It can slap you like 20 times in 10 minutes. The conductor, I don't know how many of you that conductor has slapped before, self. Talk less of Mike Tyson giving you just one punch. You do the funeral like 7 times. Anyway, so reduce, that is a minimize effect. You can bring the boy down so that he will not put his hand in your eye. The effect of that one can be dangerous. So that is reduce. Then the last one is the likelihood is high and the impact is high. That's dangerous. Any investment that is calling that in each month you're going to have ×2 of your reward, the probability of it crashing is very high and the impact is only very high. And if we've witnessed many schemes like that, Ponzi scheme like that in Nigeria, many of them, they can come with different names. So when they have the last one, this MMM, or is that the last one? No, that's not the last one. Is which one? C Facebook or C cast or see something like that. That's the last one. So they will come, bring your money. The most of the people now multiply, bang. Close your eyes now, they will just crash, bam. It can cause loss of life to many people, like that. And to some companies too, like that. So that's when they said, if the probability of this happening is high and the consequence, the impact of it too is high, that's what they say avoid. Avoid it. Another name for avoid is reject. Meaning that each of this one in this quadrant, they have other name they can call it in the scenario or in the literature. Accept risk, meaning that don't bother yourself about that particular type of risk, just like minimal effort in Mendel's matrix analysis matrix. So just take it as if nothing happens, because for it to happen, it's not even likely. Once in a blue moon, and when they happen, you don't feel the impact much like that. So what do you know to worry yourself? But the one that know that it's not happening often too, but the impact is always very high when it comes. Don't stop your business, but transfer it to somebody and insure that particular business or to insure that particular asset. Then the one that's likelihood is high, but the impact is low, reduce or minimize the effect. But when the impact is high, the probability is high, try to avoid that one. Try to avoid that one. Yes, one of the examples we make in our notes here, loss of senior or specialist staff. Because your competitor will be hunting for them. It is natural thing. Some of you have tasted like 3 jobs in 1 year. Especially when you are the type that they're looking for. Chartered accountant with a high level of computer literacy. Almost all the accounting software in this world, you know how to handle them. With audit experience, Abba. We jump from one, if you do that in audit industry, jumping from one to the other, from one to the other, from one to the other, like that. There are things that actually occur or happen very often and often. Okay, let's pause here today let me wait for some questions if there are any. By next class, I'll be able to conclude with report of risk and controlling of risk with ISO 31000 on risk management. It's usually common often and often in a scenario like that. So let's see if you have some questions to attend to, or we wait for ourselves bye till next class.
Sorry, sir. When we have low probability of risk and the impact is high, we transfer it, right?
Yes. You transfer.
All right, sir.
Low probability high impact, you transfer, and that is likelihood likened to insurance. Just that. Another one. Okay. Thank you for your attention, and wish all of us best of luck.
Thank you so much, sir, for the lecture.
Thank you very much,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you, sir. So, on this note, I think Rachel, sir, I think we have one question. Rachel, do you have a question?
Okay.
Rachel. Okay, maybe it's a mistake actually, sir. I think it's a mistake. Yes.
Maybe
All right.
wanted to wait. Okay, now.
All right, sir. Thank
Enjoy.
you.
Bye.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for the lecture. Thank you, sir. So, on this note, I think we have to go. Right. See you tomorrow at 8:30. We shall continue our lecture tomorrow on investment appraiser. Right, from investment appraiser, we'll move to option pricing, where we'll be looking at a payoff table. What's I can actually add to the syllabus, which is payoff table actually, because I can't tested it last diet. It was stated last diet, so we'll be looking at that part under the option pricing. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.